Greetings and salutations, friends and gamers of all stripes. My name is GM Dave. I am your man behind the screen, and welcome to Day 9 of RPG A Day 2021, where we're going to be taking a look at the prompt Medium. Now, this is a prompt that I've put a lot of thought into, because medium can mean a great many things in this hobby. And unfortunately, they mean a great many things that I generally don't find to be all that interesting to discuss. Now, I could have gone with one of the other three options, but I've decided early on that I'm going to challenge myself to just do the primary ones that they give for each prompt, so I'm sticking to that, and I'm stuck with medium because of that. But the good news is, after this whole day of thinking while I've been at work slaving away over a hot paint tinter, it's really not actually that hot, although the workspace itself is pretty damn hot because our air conditioning sucks. Nevertheless, after a long day there thinking about this, I finally came to an idea that I could approach the word with. And it's a little bit of an unusual approach, but I'm going to look at medium in the context of how it's used to describe art, which is to say the vessel and tools you use to present your particular kind of artwork. Now, I want to get one thing out of the way here real quick. This is not me saying that playing role-playing games is art. I do not believe that in any sense of the word. However, there are multiple mediums available to us, both digital and physical, that allow us to increase the buy-in factor in our games, to increase the atmosphere, to make things more enriched and engaging for our players. Now, some of the more obvious ones are things like miniatures or tokens and background music, things to help set the mood and give a visual cue that allow us to better picture the characters and the situations going on in the games in our heads. These can be very abstract, or they can be something that's a little more technical in the case of, battle maps, as we've mentioned earlier on in this series. But all of these are different mediums that achieve the same end goal within our games. They help us increase the buy-in. They help us become more invested, potentially, in what's going on. It's not an absolute science, of course, but it can certainly help. But this can go well beyond minis and maps and music as well. This can also go into the kind of handouts you give to your players. Now, these handouts can be everything from simple handwritten notes to crumpled up pieces of paper that you have dabbed with old tea bags to make it look like weather-worn old parchment, and then handwritten a note in fine ink on there in order to make it look like it came from this fantasy setting. And how far you go with this all depends on your personal preference. You could be the kind of person who uses miniatures and background music, but you're not going to go out of your way to get the kind of minis that you have to build and paint yourself. Maybe you just use those little green toy soldiers, or maybe you just use abstract tokens like dice or things like that just to help note where things are, or maybe it's even just a simple cutout token with a picture printed on it. Likewise, if you're using battle maps, they could be incredibly simple, just simple squares, lines, and squiggles drawn on a blank white map to denote where trees and buildings and rocks are. Or they could be something far more detailed, like specifically selected tokens on a digital battle map, or even a hand-built 3D model that you're playing in with a built-in grid. All of these are simply different methods used to provide the same basic function: increasing buy-in, making things more clear, increasing investment in your players and yourself in these games. There are also just different angles that you can approach the hobby from. Maybe you're somebody who likes building and painting models. Perhaps you're somebody who likes making their own music and background tracks. Perhaps you like creating custom handouts that really feel like they came from the setting you're trying to present to your players. Or hell, maybe you're like me. One of the things that I grew to like doing when I would have friends over is, if I could find the time and have the budget for it, I've only really been able to do this a couple times, but I liked cooking food that felt like it would come from this world, so that when we braked, we had something nice to eat that kind of felt thematically appropriate. I like to cook. It's something that I find kind of fun. I don't do it nearly enough. Regardless of the approach you choose, regardless of how simple it is or how complex it is, how time-consuming or quick it is, all of these are different mediums that you can use to help increase the buy-in and the investment in your game. and it's something that we all do in some way or another. And that's all I have for today, friends and gamers of all stripes. As usual, if you liked the video, please feel free to leave a like, comment down below with your thoughts, and open up the description box to follow me on my social media presences, in particular Minds.com, where I back up the majority of my content. Additionally, you can follow the Webtoons link to read Phoenix Rising, my fantasy adventure webcomic that is updated monthly. Seriously, if the prospect of a classic fantasy adventure with a touch of intriguing comedy and a good amount of heart appeals to you, I highly recommend reading Phoenix Rising. I'm sure you'll find something there to enjoy. And with all of that now said and done, I would like you to remember that in the world of tabletop games, you do not want to just sit back and watch, but get in there and game.